8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Liam Hendricks, and you're watching CrossTown, CrossTalk on the Barroom Network.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Every summer in Chicago, the sunshine spotlights the city's spectacular skyline. Its luxurious lakeshore, marvelous monuments, and the over 200 neighborhoods in the city. And it also brings to light two of the greatest sports franchises in the world. On the north side, it's the Cubs. On the south side, it's the White Sox. This is CrossTown CrossTalk.
Hello and welcome to another very exciting episode of CrossTown CrossTalk presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie, Parise, and I am really excited to bring you guys today's show. It is one of the more exciting episodes that we've ever done here on CrossTown CrossTalk. I know I probably say that every single week, but guess what? I love CrossTown CrossTalk. I love the Barroom Network. I love doing Bar Down. We do plenty of great things, so why wouldn't I be excited for it every single week? This week is a very special one because we have a very special guest coming up in just about under a half hour. We have Chicago White Sox prospect Sean Burke joining the show. And listen, when I interview White Sox people, there are some people that I think are better at doing it with me, and I like to, include other people in the conversation. I'm talking about one of my very best friends in the world, Joe Mandel of the South Burbs Hitman podcast. We are going to bring him in as a guest host today. Joseph, how you doing?
Doing good, Vinnie, man. Thanks for having me on for this. I've been looking forward to it.
You know what? When people are coming on our show that are notable, and I would consider a top 10 White Sox prospect notable, of course. I'm thinking to myself, I just think it adds a little more spice to the conversation. I think it makes it a little more relaxed and, fun. If there's multiple people in on, if it's one-on-one, I feel like it's kind of serious. So there's nobody I'd rather have doing this with me right now than you, Joe.
Oh, I appreciate that, buddy. Appreciate the compliment, and I return it to you as well, man. It's always fun interviewing people together.
Sure is, man. It's been a crazy offseason. This is not your first appearance on Crosstown Crosstalk this offseason. It's been quite annoying. We've gone through it as a couple of big fans of this annoying-ass team that we cheer on each and every year, no matter what. Since the last time you came on, do you have any other thing to say? What's going on in the head of Joe Mandel about the White Sox?
Well, since I came on, the only offseason signing of note was Mike Clevenger, really. And look what happened there. Obviously, there's a lot to happen with the whole legal situation, but it makes the lack of offseason moves even that much more infuriating for me. And as I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit, a lot of people are giving the White Sox a failing grade in the offseason. And Vinny, I am one of those folks as well.
I absolutely am as well. One thing that has been a positive conversation around Chicago White Sox Twitter, Facebook, any people chiming in on the conversation on any platform. Foster, afternoon. Hope all are well with you as well. Thank you for joining our show. Joe, Dylan Cease was snubbed from Major League Baseball's top 10 list. It was a very weird list. Corbin Burns of the Milwaukee Brewers was number one. Carlos Rodon, former White Sox ace and superstar, was number 3, a year ahead of going to the New York Yankees. I find it funny that a Met and a Yankee are 2 and 3, even though neither of them have played a single game with those franchises yet. Sandy Alcantara, however you say his last name, he was number 5. I thought that was incredibly low. Dylan Cease was completely snubbed. Garrett Cole was completely snubbed. What's your takeaway from this top 10 list and Dylan Cease being snubbed?
Yeah, I think it's trash, man. I saw that list come out and I just had to chuckle to myself because let's be honest. First off, Alcantara needs to be way higher on that list. He just won the Cy Young in the National League, and he was just, he did. I'm not crazy, right? He won the Cy Young, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he was just unbelievable. He's been unbelievable for as long as I can remember. Playing for the Marlins organization, which is even crazier that a Marlin won the Cy Young. And then for Dylan Cease not to make it, for Rodon, who, let's be honest, he's had 2 good years in his career. I'm not trying to blow any smoke. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Carlos. Like, he's had some ups and downs in his career, but like to have 2 really good years back to back and then make what they put him at 3 or something.
3.
I think that's just ridiculous. I love Carlos. No discredit to him, but there's a lot of names on that list that just didn't belong there, and there's a few names that just got snubbed. And Dylan Cease not to even crack the top 10 is a slap in the face.
I want your opinion on this. People say, hello. Well, she says hello to you and not me. I mean, that's blasphemous. I'm just totally joking. Obviously, everybody loves Joe Mandel. People say, "Oh, the White Sox, they get no respect. They stink. You know, they should be ashamed of themselves. They're the reason Dylan Cease got no credit." What team does Alcantara play for? He plays for the Miami Marlins, who were way worse than the White Sox. They are way less successful long-term than the White Sox. They have a way bleaker future, in my opinion, than the White Sox. And that's saying something, because the White Sox future is pretty putrid right now. I don't see the Marlins competing for the postseason anytime soon. They play in the hardest division in the league. I don't want to hear any crap that it's because of the White Sox. It's because Dylan Cease was snubbed. It had nothing to do with the team he plays for.
Absolutely. He was just flat out snubbed. The writer clearly forgot about Dylan Cease, because I don't see any list where after his year last year that he doesn't at least make the top 10. I'd be happy if he made the top 10 at all.
And you can argue he's like 3, 4, 5.
He should be top 5. He should be probably, for me, he's probably number 5 in the league right now.
Yeah, and they had DeGrom at 9.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, because he's no longer on the Mets. He gets bumped down. Like, do we love New York that much? I mean, the answer to that is yes. And, New York is okay. But I can't get over the almost like the politics. But then again, I say New York, Garrett Cole would have been number 1 if that were true. So I guess maybe there's just all sorts of issues with the list. I'm not sure how the shredder comes up with this stuff, but people are always like, well, he needs to put it together for more than 1 year. I'm thinking to myself, the list is the top 10 pitcher right now. And the only way to base right now is how they did last year and how they project this year. Okay, does anybody think Dylan Cease stunk last year? No? Okay. Does everybody think Dylan Cease is going to be pretty damn good also this year?
Yeah.
This guy does. I do. It makes no sense, the criteria, all of it. So annoying.
I'm with you, man. It's the list is crazy, and the Marlins have gotten more national spotlight in the last 2 weeks than I can remember in a long time.
Literally. I mean, how do you feel about that? They took Luis Arise out of our hair. That's wonderful.
That's the best part of it all for me. You take Arise out of this division. He's a White Sox killer, man. He destroyed us last year.
Yeah, he really did. And I can't wait to see how the Twins lineup kind of functions without him, because they still have Carlos Correa, who they brought back. And Byron Buxton is one of the best hitters in the league. Obviously, we think highly of, certain players on that team, but without Luis Arise driving the bus, it's going to be kind of weird.
Yeah. And then of course, for all you baseball video game fans out there, the Marlins have Jazz Chisholm on the cover this year, was announced yesterday or 2 days ago. And then I don't know if you saw this, Vinnie, but they announced yesterday as well the deluxe edition cover, which will be Derek Jeter.
The captain.
Derek
Jeter. I think I want the one with Chisholm on it. I love the way they designed that cover with the colors and whatnot. I think it's really, really cool.
No, I love not to get off track, Vinny, but doesn't it drive you nuts that it's not an action shot? It makes me nuts that it's not him playing baseball.
It is odd. I did find that odd. Because they've kind of veered away from that, though. I mean, in every sport. NHL 21 is Trevor Zegras, or 23 is Trevor Zegras with Sarah Nurse, and they're like posing in front of palm trees and stuff because it's California and it's chill, man.
Yeah, that's true.
It's chill. I don't get it. I mean,
like, what do we have to do to get TA on the cover? That's what I want to know.
He was on RBI Baseball, 2020, 2021? I know that game stinks, but I'm also wondering if that like puts a damper on him getting the show for a while. Plus, and again, Tim Anderson, I wrote the article, Tim Anderson deserves a cover opportunity. He was bad last year, and the White Sox get no love, and he was injured all year. Tim Anderson had better numbers than Jazz Chisholm Jr. last year. He played for a team with a better record than Jazz Chisholm Jr. last year. And look it up, he played more games than Jazz Chisholm Jr. did last year. So just some of these arguments that people throw out with no research whatsoever.
Well,
I
and
just
he
don't
got
understand it.
and he got passed over on the top 10 baseball shortstop list. I think he got number 9, and there were some really questionable players put in front of him.
Based on Dylan Cease being snubbed, I'm just happy Tim Anderson made it at all.
He made the list. I know. Kind of puts things in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, the whole freaking thing. So The Athletic, they gave the White Sox an offseason grade of F. Why?
Well, Vinny, because the only offseason addition they really made of note is a player who's now being accused and likely to be, well, I don't want to go too far, but accused of domestic violence. And there's a lot of damning evidence out there, and didn't really do a whole lot of anything else. Didn't address any needs. They didn't address second base, which there's rumors flying around that maybe they're going to try to address something to appease the fans, and maybe they're not as comfortable at second base as we all think they are. But at the end of the day, it's just Kenny's done nothing. This team has an offseason. They got rid of Jose Abreu, so you think that they try to pump up the fans, pump up baseball, change the game. Let's change the game by getting some players that are going to gel well together. Changing the game is not signing Mike Clevenger and doing nothing else.
What about
you got Andrew Benintendi. I'm not. I don't want to. I love that signing, right? It's not enough. Like, you have your outfielder. Like, you make a move like that by giving him the biggest contract in White Sox history, which is laughable, by the way. And then you got to follow that up with something. What'd you follow up with? Nothing. And then the Clevenger news comes out, and then you have two guys out there in Waka and Greinke that you got to go get one of them, and Greinke's off the board now.
To a division rival,
which doesn't really surprise me. Right. So why haven't they signed Waka yet? I don't know the answer to that. They should have by now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so their rotation right now without Clevenger, if assuming he doesn't pitch, is Kopech, Cease, Lynn, Giolito. Outside of Cease, all those guys have question marks to some degree. And that, to me, is an issue.
Yeah, it is an issue. I don't know, man. I don't know how to fix it. I think Waka would certainly help.
Well, certainly Garrett Crochet coming back from Tommy John's not an option as a starter. You got Davis Martin. Davis Martin certainly is
the spot start guy.
Yeah, he's the likely fifth starter if Clev can't go. Reynaldo Lopez would be an option if Liam Hendricks wasn't undergoing his cancer treatment, and we wish him well, obviously. But Raylo is probably the closer as long as Hendricks isn't there. So they also have Joe Kelly and Kendall Graveman. But I don't know. The pitching situation could be great and it could be awful. And that's one of the big question marks going into the season, just like everything else going on with the White Sox. It's like, if Moncada and Grandal and all these pitchers that we're talking about all play to the way that we saw them play in 2021, this team would be awesome again. And the fact that they're just kind of so much of a lull last year, it didn't even feel like an 81-81 team, and that was my problem. They felt like they should be a 60-win team, but they managed to win a bunch of games that I would have never thought they'd win 81 games based on how it felt they played last year. I remember doing Put On Your Socks last year, and every video felt like it was annoying to do. And it was because they were so terrible, and they ended up 81-81 in such a bad year. It does give me hope that this year can be turned around, but like we talked about just a couple seconds ago, everything is a big if.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is this team is full of ifs, and I think there's a lot of exciting things that could happen, but then there's a lot of things that could go wrong because, like, if the health of TA, Grandal, Michael Kopech, Moncada, those guys all go to the wayside if they're out for extended amounts of time, and that's not even including some of even Benintendi. If any of these guys get hurt, you're looking at a team that's going to win probably 75 games, 72 games.
And the one guy who never got hurt plays for the Houston Astros now.
Yeah, Mr. Durable. We get to see him on opening day. I can't wait.
4 straight games.
But the White Sox, the over and under came out this week on their win total for the year, Vinny, at 83.5. I think that's really telling of this offseason because that's just over 500. 81 and 81 is perfect 500, so just over. These odds makers are really good.
They are.
If the team stays as they are right now, Vinny, I tweeted this out the other day. The White Sox win 84 games. They go just over that, barely. So I would bet the over right now and that's just mediocrity without any additions. But a lot can go wrong and a lot can go right to make it go one way or the other. But I think they just go over that. They don't make the playoffs. They need to do something else.
If they're 83 and 78 going into that last game of the season, I legitimately will die laughing. Like, how do they know that the over-under
it's going to be something like that.
Split by like a half game? They're either going to come up just short or blow it out of the water. I don't see 85 through 87 wins. I don't. I see either 90 plus or 80 or under. Like, it's weird. Like, I honestly believe that. I know it sounds crazy, but I honestly think they're either going to stink or be really good. I don't think there's another mediocre season in that group.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to fall somewhere in the interim, the roster as is.
Yeah.
Right? If they make a move for Glaber, like I've heard rumored, don't know what we'd have to give up, but then this team, I think, could win closer to 90 games with a second baseman. But, there's a long way to go. And there's a lot of – the offseason's basically done. Spring training is a couple weeks away. We have, over the next couple of weeks, talking prospects, talking with major league players, getting this thing on the road. These pitchers are getting in shape. There's a full spring training. These guys have the time to get in shape. There's freak injuries that are going to happen, hopefully not to the White Sox, but they will happen across the league. So Waka's not going to be a free agent much longer. They can't waste any more time. They should sign him.
Yeah, I agree. What about Elvis Andrus, who came to the White Sox and gave them second life last year? Still available. Is he unwilling to play second base? Is it money? Is it an issue with the team? I don't understand why Elvis Andrus isn't re-signed by the White Sox after what he did for them last year, and they're pumping Romy Gonzalez's tires like nobody's business. He was in the promo video. I personally, based on what I've been told, I don't believe anything's going to happen, but like, it just makes no sense to me. Why can't you go get Elvis Andrus?
Yeah, he did a lot for this team last year when they were dwindling, and he was the only guy that really surprisingly came through and was like a beast. He gave us a shot at making the playoffs at some point, which is crazy to even think that we had the opportunity to pounce, but we couldn't win when we had to win. But, I think his performance in the latter part of summer into the fall drove up his value a little bit. And I think he wants more money than the White Sox are willing to pay. And that's why they're like, oh, for what he wants, we'll go with these two guys internally, or we'll make a trade for somebody. But that's not really the Jerry thing to do. But if this team wants to win, I don't think they're that many pieces apart. I think a second baseman with a bat can certainly help things. And Gleyber Torres, for me, is that target.
So you're cool with Oscar Colas playing right field?
I'm cool with that. I'm
too.
cool with it from opening day.
Me too. Well, like, why do you need the extra year of service? Like, they're probably going to be brutal in the end of the 2020s. So, like, go for it now.
Yeah, it's like, get this guy up. He's got a power bat. We've had Phil Salagon from Cuba Dugout just telling us about how this guy's just got an absolute power bat. I'm not so interested in the pitching aspect. I don't think that's something we're really going to ever see.
No, he's done with that.
I think he's completely done with that. I want his bat and in the short bleach. And I don't want to call them bleachers, but in the short outfield at Guaranteed Rate Field, because you've seen Eloy just take one off center field off the side of the vines. I think Colas could hit one onto the concourse easy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a very good bat with him, and there's been some lists coming out of the top prospects across the league. Colas came in at 85 on MLB Pipeline, and he didn't make ESPN's list at all, even though he's the most MLB ready prospect that the White Sox have. And I'm not here to rip on ESPN because they put Brian Ramos in their top 100, but Pipeline left him out. But ESPN put Montgomery 15th out of 100.
Yeah.
And so I thought the whole prospecting with the White Sox is getting kind of interesting now because there seems to be varying opinions on their top three and the organization's prospect farm in general.
Yeah, I think we're at that point of the offseason where everyone is overanalyzing every little bit and piece about these prospects. And now it's time for them to go play ball. They get their spring training invitations. I know our guest on today's show has a spring training invitation today. So, that's something we're going to dive into a little bit, but these guys got to prove themselves. And the only way they can do that is to have a good spring. Well, at least a quality spring where they can learn, and then hopefully a good statistical spring as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into our guest who's supposed to be joining us here at 3:00, is there anything you are excited about when it comes to the White Sox season? Like, what is Joe Mandel looking forward to? It could be more than one thing. And then if there's anything you're absolutely dreading, feel free to throw that out there as well.
I'm really looking forward to seeing a healthy Tim Anderson go into 2023. From what I understand, he's back to full strength, or at least close to it. That's all behind him, and have him with Benintendi in the lineup. I would be excited to see Benintendi lead off and put TA. I think we've talked about this before, towards the bottom of the lineup, whether that's like 8 or 9. So then you have like Benintendi at the top, and maybe TA will score some more runs, get some more RBI. I know it's probably a pipe dream. He probably wants to lead off, but I'm excited to see a healthy TA play with Benintendi, get a full season of a healthy Eloy Jimenez, and I'm going to knock on all the wood in the world for that. And most of all, I don't know why I'm so excited to see it again, but I'm really excited to see another year of Dylan Cease, to see how he can take that his year two of being a solid number one ace, and how he can build on some of that movement on all his pitches, really. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. His slider, just everything is ridiculous. It's nasty. It's dirty. I just want to see, how it continues. And I want to see if he still goes with the stash.
I think he will.
I think he will too.
Probably annoying during the off season. Probably annoying all the time because I know what it's like to have a mustache for an extended period of time. But it's just a little different when that's the only hair on your face. Like when you have the rest of the beard in with it, like you do, I think it is less noticeable. But that's getting off topic. For me, I'm extremely excited, Joe, to watch the pitching rotation.
Yeah.
Like just in general, I know you went on this nice soliloquy about Cease, and I agree with everything you said. Lucas Giolito was, by his standards, awful last year. He certainly wasn't worst pitcher in baseball, like the commercial used to say, or anything like that. He wasn't Dallas Keuchel. Like, people who called him Dallas Keuchel 2.0. Like, stop. Just stop. That's not even close to true. It was the whole 3 earned run average lower than Dallas Keuchel last year. Like, you think Giolito was bad? Go take a look at Dallas Keuchel's numbers, pals. But I do think there's room to improve and bounce back. He's not old by any means. He got a $10 million arbitration avoid contract for a reason. It's because of what he's done in his career and how good he's been in 2019, 2020, 2021. And the end of 2022, he was starting to come on a little bit. And that's why it was coming with mid-season adjustments, which is incredibly hard to do in Major League Baseball. So, and he's been working this offseason with Dylan Cease and with Ethan Katz, and I do think the lack of lockout will certainly help him in that area. The put on muscle experiment, the gain weight experiment, that was a complete failure. It threw off his mechanics. It threw off everything. Velocity was down. He shed all the weight. I listened to all of his offseason comments to MLB Network and to Garfine on the White Sox Talk podcast and all that stuff. I've listened to Lucas Giolito speak a lot this offseason, and my conclusion is he is back to the weight and the physicalness, I don't know what you would say, of where he was before last year. And he probably won't get hurt on opening day again, knock on wood, but that was a freak
Jeez.
thing that, well, he won't
Don't
start
say
on,
it.
no, he certainly won't start on opening day. So he's definitely not going to get hurt on opening day. That set him
So-
back a little bit too. And yeah, if he got hurt, like munching on seeds with Eloy in the dugout or something, like that'd be annoying. But,
No, it'd be on brand.
it would be on brand for the White Sox in general. You put on that uniform and it's like there's a voodoo doll controlling you. But like if he could get that velocity back up, and he still, when it's on, has the best changeup in baseball.
Oh,
And
for sure.
it was even like that last year. It was just the other pitches that were destroying him. And he started veering away from using that third pitch like he was doing so successfully in the 3 years prior. So that takes things away. And then you go to Michael Kopech. Okay, this guy's got just as much arm talent as Dylan Cease, if not more. He throws it harder. His breaking stuff is nastier, but he has injury issues and command issues sometimes, which Cease had around the same part of Kopech's career in terms of game starts. I do think that working back from Tommy and last year being his first year in the rotation full time, I'm happy his injury last year wasn't related to his arm at all. His arm is perfectly fine. Hopefully his knee and his lower half of his body is able to hold up a little bit better this year, but he was nasty last year for a good portion of the season. And falling out of it could have been a direct result. The team falling out of it could have been a direct result of his issues that he's had with what was going on with the injury. So, hopefully he's able to figure it out. You move over to Lance Lynn. Lynn Sanity. He was terrible coming back from his injury.
He was bad.
Horrible. But then once he started to get that spring training part of his season, his development, however you want to call it, because he missed most of spring training, almost all the beginning of the year. It was almost like the games his first 5 starts were like spring training for him, and he got shelled and he was working on things. And once he got it all together, he was pretty damn good at the end of the season too. He had bad start against Cleveland when it mattered most, but the team was basically dead by then anyway, because that was the day after they lost an extra innings to get them, that would have got them within a game of the Guards. But it all seemed to go south at the end after they lost that series to Cleveland, but the entire pitching staff last year wasn't the issue by any means. If they can score runs, I can't wait to see what this pitching staff is able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was our problem last year. So when we scored runs, we didn't get the pitching, and when we got the pitching, we didn't score runs. So something's got to give here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very much looking forward to it. You excited to eat some food too?
Yeah, the tickets went on sale today too, Vinny. Single game tickets are available for White Sox games as of today. So
that's exciting, actually.
Yeah.
I saw our buddy Dylan sent me a tweet yesterday about Section 108 tickets being in the 60s, and he asked me, he's like, we going? I'm like, I'm down to go to opening day, actually. I know this offseason was disgusting, and I feel awful giving Jerry my money, but it's like a drug that you can't quit, the White Sox or just baseball in general. Like, people are like, oh, I'm not looking forward to this at all. The White Sox were so dumb this last offseason. I'm like, but like Shohei Ohtani is back, and like we get to watch
people are
freaking Rodon pitch for the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, and the Red Sox are going to be a little bit better than they were last year, and the Orioles are up and coming. And look at what's going on with the Blue Jays and their pitching staff finally starting to match their offensive prowess a little bit. Look at the I almost said NFC, the National League East with the Braves, a powerhouse. The Phillies are sick, and they added Trey Turner, and the Mets are what they are. And you go out west and you see what the Dodgers are, and they might go try to get Ohtani during the regular season. Like, this is baseball. This is it. This is sick. Like, the White Sox. Are we going to let the White Sox ruin your summer? I'm not.
Baseball's back, man. We take it for the grain of salt. You don't know what this team's going to be until you see them all play together. But we do know. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're not bound to only watching the White Sox. Baseball's sick. There's so much awesome stuff to watch.
That's right. There's lots of exciting stuff coming up in baseball. And what I was saying is we do know at least what the White Sox are going to look like in their clubhouse. They dropped officially yesterday their 2023 clubhouse hats, Vinny. And I pulled up the image here just so if people haven't seen it, let's take a look.
There you go. You have the 5950, the black with the bat boy with the Sox scripted underneath, and then it's the same thing in gray. And then you could also get each edition of the hat in 3930, both black and gray. Joe, what do you think?
That's right. And they have the black one in snapback, if that's your thing. Not the gray, but they have the black and snapback.
Oh,
I love them,
interesting.
man. I love them. The black one, we've seen iterations of it before, but the gray is like it's almost like a gray kind of camo. It's not really a camo, but it's trying to be. I love it. I think it's a cool look. And I think White Sox fans are going to eat it up. I ordered the 3930 of the gray one on the right. So I'm pretty happy with them. I think it's cool. New Era. I'm a fan of New Era. Some people don't love New Era, but obviously I'm wearing a New Era hat right now, and they make pretty much all the White Sox hats for the most part. About like probably 85% of them. I think
I love New Era. I'm wearing a 47 brand hat right now, and I like 47 brand too. But
47's nice.
yeah, I wear it all. If it's a hat, you said yesterday, like you have a hat buying obsession.
Yeah,
Me
I got a
too.
problem.
I do too. I have a big problem. I love buying hats, but it is what it is. I'm I'm getting excited though about it because no matter what, the White Sox always look good. They're never
Oh,
a poor
yeah.
dressed team.
No, they always look good. Their hats are good. I mean, even last year's spring training cap, which is this one, was really nice, and it's kind of got like the mesh trucker hat on the side, but it's fitted. I remember Jake Berger made a funny post on Twitter last year because he's like, "Who designed these?" Because he had sunburn through the back of the hat on his bald head, and it's like that's true to a certain extent. But I'm always excited to see what kind of new merch comes out, and there's some slick new hoodies and stuff on WhiteSox.com. Everyone commenting how they're not giving Jerry another cent of their money, and it's like, I don't know. I'm a White Sox fan. I'm going to rep my team no matter what, but I
Yeah,
get it. I get it.
I get it too, but like also at the same time, do you think the money you're spending on other clothes isn't going to a scumbag to some degree? I mean,
Oh yeah. I
when you
mean,
buy Ralph Lauren polo or something like that, you think your money's going to like a good cause?
people just cherry pick things, you know.
Yeah.
Not to
So
get too political, but
yeah, of course. We're sitting here talking hats while we wait for Sean Burke to join us as we await to have a conversation with one of the White Sox top prospects. Joe, besides Sean Burke and Oscar Colas, who we talked about, and this is up until Sean joins. Whenever he joins, we could X the conversation right away. But
yeah.
is there a White Sox prospect besides Colas, who we talked about, and then of course Sean, who's joining us today, that you're like extremely looking forward to?
Man, is there a prospect that I'm really looking forward to? I mean, you named the big ones there. I mean, Colson Montgomery's one, obviously. Looking forward to seeing him. You know, there really isn't another name that's like in my head that I want to come and see play. I what I do want to see is I want to see, the Knights continue to be impressive. I want to see, I mean, I don't even know if you can call him a prospect anymore, but Jake Berger's been up and down so many times. I would love to see him on this major league squad for a long time because I mean the guy's got the power bat and he's consistent. Even at DH, I wouldn't mind seeing Jake Berger, and you know, I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting consistent at bats at the major league level either, because he was raking last year in AAA. I mean, this is a guy that he was doing really well in the majors. He took a pitch to the hand. I believe he broke his hand, and then he rehabbed it. Was in minor leagues tearing it up, and then he got hurt again, right? Or did he just end the season in the minors? I think
I
he got
think
hurt again.
he ended. Yeah, he did get hurt again, and he ended his season in the minors. Like, I didn't want to call it the South Burbs Hitman curse, but it was kind of the South Burbs Hitman curse because he came on the show and then he never went back to freaking. Don't tell him that before he joins the show next week.
We'll never talk about this again, Vinnie.
I mean, that was fun though. I can't wait to speak with Jake Berger, and we'll preview that in a little bit. But when I think of White Sox prospects, Noah Schultz comes to mind. I don't know too much about him. I'm a moderate prospect follower in every sport, but for baseball, It's a little bit different because these guys are so far away from reaching the big league level, most of them. Obviously, the big ones, like when Adley Rushman is the top prospect in all baseball, he's going to be the Orioles catcher sooner than later. Same thing with a guy like when Luis Robert was at the top. They used to say the same thing about Yohan Moncada, stuff like that. When Mike Trout and Bryce Harper were coming up around the same time. But Noah Schultz, he was a first-round pick by the White Sox last year. He's from Illinois. He's a guy who I believe can be an impact player one day. And, he seems to have a good head on his shoulders when it comes to talking about becoming a major league player. I'm very much looking forward to see what he can become when it comes to the big leagues. And then this might annoy some people, but this is CrossTown CrossTalk. Ed Howard on the Cubs. They took him a pick before, or a couple picks before the White Sox drafted in 2020. Ed Howard, I will always root for because he's from the Chicago White Sox ACE program. And seeing a White Sox ACE program player get drafted to a big league team is all of the sudden, on the Cubs of all teams that takes him. But what team besides the White Sox is scouting ace players better than the Cubs? Of course, it's the Sox or the Cubs. So, he's staying in Chicago. I hope he ends up making it to Major League Baseball one day because he does kind of have like a Jazz Chisholm, Tim Anderson type of vibe to him where he's like super cool and seems like he would just be electric factory in Major League Baseball. Like if he ever made it big one day, like really, really big, like superstar, if he was on MLB The Show, I'd be 0% surprised. Like that's how interesting of a prospect this kid is. So those are the two that come to mind for me.
Yeah, another one is Cam Butler. We had Cameron Butler on the show,
I believe,
early last year, and that's a kid that he's got a lot of range. He's got a good bat. He's really young. I think he's in high school. He's one of the high school draftees, but I'd be interested to see him obviously develop over the years because his high school tape is incredible. But it's really tough when you talk about high school talent because that's a long commitment. But I'd love to see more of him in the coming years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, while we're waiting for Sean, why don't we do it now? Let's preview Jake Berger. We're going to have Jake Berger on the South Burbs Hitmen next Monday. Very much looking forward to that. It will be his second appearance on the show.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, before I talk about that, I'll preface it that if Sean pops on, we'll pick this right back up afterwards. But we are pumped to have Jake and his wife Ashlyn on. Well, now his wife. Last time we spoke to them, they were still engaged. So congratulations
by one day.
Them. They got married at sunrise the morning after they were on our show. So we're going to talk about that.
Their wedding eve they spent with the South Burbs Hitman podcast.
Maybe that's why we have a special place in their heart. So that's a huge congratulations for them. Since then, they've also had a new baby, Brooks Berger, who is adorable, by the way. So we'll talk about that. We are more than excited to have them on. And then Jake's getting ready for spring training. So we're going to talk about spring training goals. We're going to talk about his year, what he wants to do offensively this year, maybe what he can do at the hot corner defensively, because we all know he could improve there, and I'm sure he would say the same thing himself. But most of all, we want that bat, and we want some of those burger bombs. And I tell you what, Jake was so much fun to talk to last time. Ashlyn is awesome. Ashlyn was on by herself as a guest before we had her on with Jake. So this will be Ashlyn's third time on the program, and we get to see what these new parents have, some new parent stories, because as a dad of a 1-year-old, I can tell you there's got to be some hilarious stories. And also, Vinnie, one of the things we'll talk about too is, you're a new dad, you're a new mom, and then now you got to go away from your family to go to spring training. How are you emotionally prepared for that? Because we know Jake is huge on mental health, and I'm sure he'll have a really interesting answer to that as well. So we're looking forward to having Jake and Ashlyn Berger on the show, if you can't tell. But that's coming up, Vinny, on Monday, February 6th, and that's 7:30 p.m. Central, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. For me, I'm going to try and pick Jake's brain a little bit about how last season went. Things he's going to look forward to this season when it comes to the baseball operations side of things. There's a lot to look forward to when you have a major league or minor league player, getting ready to come on your podcast. So we'll see what happens with Jake, but I think it's going to be a pretty big opportunity for our program. When are people going to be able to watch this, Joe?
Yeah, they're going to be able to watch on Monday night, February 6th at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, only on the Ballroom Network. So follow and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us and watch us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Give us a follow at South Burbs Hitmen on Twitter. You can follow me and Vinnie on Twitter at our respective names, at Vinnie Parise, at Joe Mandel. And our buddy Steven Zim Zimmerman, our co-host, you can follow him at Raging Sox Fan. Speaking of Zim, we are also giving away, for those that tune in and retweet, so keep an eye on our Twitter page. We're giving away not one, but 2 signed Jake Burger rookie cards. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I can't even talk. That's pretty sweet. So tune in. You're going to want to win that and check out a great conversation, because this is going to be a fun episode before Jake heads off to spring training. I think he heads out, next week. So we're catching him just before he leaves, Vinny.
We are giving those away during the show, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I can't wait to give away some Jake Burger cards. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that we're stalling, waiting for Sean to join. He was supposed to join at 3, but, few people are good at just talking on the fly like me and you. We could have a conversation about literally anything. I saw something on Twitter just now while I was checking on Sean's status with us, waiting on that. But in 2017, the NBA champion was the Golden State Warriors. In the NFL Super Bowl, the champion was the Philadelphia Eagles. And in the MLB, the champion was the Houston Astros. Let's fast forward to 2022. The NBA champion was the Golden State Warriors. The MLB World Series champion was the Houston Astros.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Are they going to keep that trend alive?
They are, Vinny. They are. I like the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl. This defense is dominant. They have an offense that is much more dangerous than people give them credit for. And they have a quarterback that can rush for over 100 yards and destroy you with his legs. The Chiefs' defense is not amazing. They're not horrible. They have some rookies that are very inexperienced, and a guy like Jalen Hurts can confuse you. Now, can Patrick Mahomes take a game and win it himself? Absolutely. But he's banged up. He does have 2 weeks to recover, but he's banged up. I like the team with the best defense. It's always the better defense that wins the Super Bowl historically. You can look. It's almost the year that Peyton Manning and the Broncos were amazing all year offensively. They get blown out by the Seahawks that have a great defense, right? So I think the Eagles win. I got the Eagles by a touchdown. I think the spread right now is only like 2.5-point favorites. It's been moving around like crazy, so I'm actually going to open up DraftKings here and take a peek to see if that line's moved at all. But
yeah, let's do it. Let's just talk about this until if Sean joins at this point, because I know we got a hard stop here and later in the hour, so we'll see what happens. I mean, this is CrossTown CrossTalk. We just talk. That's what we do.
That's right, man. Anything could happen.
Literally. I know the Eagles were favored last time I look. It's the first time in NFL history that 2 brothers are playing against each other in the Super Bowl, even though oddly enough, 2 brothers have coached against each other in the Super Bowl. I think that is way less likely. So the fact that it happened first is honestly remarkable. 15 of the last 18 Super Bowl winners were wearing white, but the 3 that weren't were wearing green. Philly's wearing green. Kansas City's wearing white. Something's got to give. There are lots of things to look at. I don't know if you believe in any of those superstitions like we were talking about with 2017 jersey colors. I don't either, because when I look at the 2 teams, I see an Eagles roster that is significantly better than a Chiefs roster.
Yeah.
Like if you're
significantly more healthy as well.
Yes, exactly. And you ignore the quarterbacks. The entire roster minus the quarterback. The Eagles are significantly better than the Chiefs, in my opinion.
And as I was saying, the Eagles were originally 2.5-point favorites, Vinny. Somehow it has dropped to 1.5 favorites for the Eagles. So I would definitely put my money on the Eagles if I were putting money on this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think the Chiefs just stay in games. That's just what they do. But I think they're going to be able to stop Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster. If you're relying on him to win you a game, I just don't think it's going to get it done. Valdez-Scantling has been better as of late. Jerick McKinnon might be the guy they have to lean on heavily in this game, so that's a guy you got to watch. I just think the Eagles are a better all-around team, more balanced, and their defense has just been lights out all year. How do you stop the Eagles defense? That's a question for Andy Reid, because that's going to be a tough one.
Do you think there will be any other prop bets or not prop bets? Do you think it'll flip to the Eagles being dogs at any point?
I don't think so. Not with Mahomes injured. Unless a report comes out that says he's 100%, then I think I think the Chiefs might become like a 1.5-point favorite. But I guess if the money goes that way, I guess it's possible, or it could be flat out even, which I don't know if I've ever seen a Super Bowl be even.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so torn because I know what Mahomes can do. I know the Eagles are better. Like, I wholeheartedly think the Eagles have a better team. They have better offensive line. They have a better defense. Their weaponry is about equal. I would probably give a slight edge weaponry rise to the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, is worlds better than just about every quarterback. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he does have A.J. Brown, right? Like, that changed the entire offense. They have a good run game. He's an outstanding runner. It's just such a hard Super Bowl for me to predict. I'm leaning Philly, and Frankie told me I'm on glue on Bar Down yesterday, but I'm leaning Eagles.
Me too, Vinny. I've been telling people all week. I've been on the Eagles since before. I thought if it was Bengals, I thought it was going to be Bengals-Eagles, and I didn't know how to pick the game because I thought, man, I'm like, this Bengals team's got a great defense. The Eagles got a great defense. I would have probably given the slight edge to the Bengals, but I don't think it's particularly close when you pick in this game. I think the Eagles win by at least a touchdown, maybe more. I think the most intriguing bet of the whole game is going to be the over-under for how long Chris Stapleton takes to sing the anthem.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Are there any props? First touchdown scorer, color of Gatorade, over-under on anthems, coin flip. I haven't lost a coin flip in like 3 years. I just jinxed the crap out of it. I might not bet it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I usually bet some of those. I did the Gatorade thing last year, and of course I was wrong. I'm looking to see what's out so far. I mean, coin toss is out now, but I really want to see when the fun props come out. There's not really a lot of them that are just out just yet, at least on DraftKings. But, the national anthem time will be one. I always like to make that bet. Whatever it is with Chris Stapleton, I feel like it'll probably go over. But then again, they might make that number really high for the length. One thing you can bet your ass is that Chris Stapleton's going to do an awesome anthem. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Gatorade color is always a crazy one because there's somebody out there that knows the color. And like last year, there was like 6 options, right? It was like yellow, there was orange. I think green was an option. There was clear,
blue, green and
red.
Yellow are always together because you can't tell.
Right. And then there was blue. And I think last year it was blue. And the odds on blue were like plus 500. And I was like, why would it be blue? And maybe I'm done. Maybe I talked myself out of betting that one because it's such a crapshoot. Coin toss is probably the most popular that people bet on. It's a 50-50 shot, Vinny. So I can see why people like that.
How do you feel about each quarterback as the first-time touchdown scorer? Jalen Hurts is plus 650 and Patrick Mahomes is plus 2,800. I like Mahomes at plus 2,800.
I can't bet it because let's be honest. With his injury, are they really going to have him do a quarterback sneak? I don't see it happening. That's why you see those odds where they are. The Jalen Hurts I like a lot. You said
Yeah.
680?
650.
I mean,
He's
that's
tied with
ridiculous.
Travis Kelce for second most on either team.
I put $10 on it and win 60, 650
Yeah,
all
I would
day.
too. I would too.
I mean, this is a guy that he might rush for 65 yards on the first carry of the game for 100 and score a touchdown. I mean,
Yeah.
Kelsey's a good bet too, as always. But I like Jalen Hurts. I'm sure do you have it pulled up right now? What's
Yeah, I have it
Miles
pulled up.
Sanders?
Miles Sanders is the betting favorite as the first touchdown scorer at plus 600. He's not the favorite as the last touchdown scorer though. That belongs to Travis Kelce.
Huh. I hate the last bet because that's score dependent.
Yes.
The first bet is not. So you're not going to get special play calls in the beginning of the game compared to what you would get at the end. So I like if I was a betting man, which I don't have anything in my accounts this year, obviously with a new baby and everything, but I'll probably get a couple squares in the Super Bowl pool somewhere. But if I were betting on a first touchdown scorer, I'd probably put my money on Jalen Hurts.
I agree. I'm heavily thinking about it. The only ones who are minus to score an anytime touchdown is Sanders, Hurts, and Kelce. Then you start getting into the Pacheco's and the A.J. Browns and the Jerick McKinnons. Those guys are all minor dogs to be an anytime touchdown scorer. But I mean,
What's McKinnon's odds on first touchdown? I'm curious.
McKinnon's odds on first touchdown plus 1,000.
I'd put like $3 on it.
Yeah. What would that win?
This is a guy.
10?
You said it's plus 1,000, so you win $1,000 for every dollar you bet. So you would win $3,000 if you put 3,000.
No, don't you win 1,000 for every 100 you spend?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'd still put $3 on it.
Yeah, no, me too. Absolutely, I would too. I'm going to throw a couple prop bets down on the Super Bowl. I already got some squares. I got in one pool where the squares are 30 a piece, and there's a lot.
Yeah, it's plus 1,000. So if I put $3 on Jerick McKinnon to do it and he wins, you win $33. So you win.
Which is nice if you think he's going to have a touchdown.
I mean, if you saw what he did in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. I mean, he was ridiculous.
Yeah. What about MVP? Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I'm pulling that up right now myself to look at that.
Hurts is plus 120. The quarterbacks are always the favorites. I mean, even Mahomes is plus 130, and he's the best player on either team. I hate saying even Mahomes, but everyone knows he's injured. I like Kelce at plus 1,000. This year reminds me of when Brady had his last Super Bowl with the Patriots, and people were saying Edelman, and Edelman ended up being the Super Bowl MVP. A lot of people made a lot of change on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me personally, I'm not betting Mahomes. I know it's going to be really easy to bet Mahomes. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do enough by himself to win the game. From what I'm hearing about this injury, again, he maybe the two weeks will go by. Well, at this point, it's not 2 weeks anymore, but by the time of the injury, and I just don't think he's gonna be able to get it done. Hurts could easily do it. He could run and have. So Hurts is smart money. But if you want to go outside of the box, I think Kelsey's a great bet, like you mentioned. A.J. Brown could be a sneaky bet. I'm curious what the odds are for him. And then again, I'll go Jerick McKinnon again for MVP, because this is a guy that if they involve him the way they could, and if they win the game, he could easily have 200 total yards and 2 scores, which should be more than enough to win Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Joe, I don't think Sean's coming.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That wouldn't be the first time that ever happened on any of our programs, and it's certainly not going to be the last. But I mean, he said 3:00, and he's been on this show before. The only difference is last time he was on, he was like 3 days removed from being drafted by a major league team and was still in his childhood bedroom with like kid wallpaper on the wall.
Yeah, and now he's got an invitation to spring training.
Not a big deal. I'm not going to, poo-poo him or anything.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously things come up. I'm sure something came up, and we'll be able to get him on again, unless he comes on in like the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, if he comes on in the next 2 minutes, we'll just have a shorter interview with him. But I mean, who's better at stalling than we are? What Sean Burke, top White Sox prospect? Where does he rank?
I think he's number 9.
Yeah, not bad, not a big deal.
But then again, as we said, it's an often debated ranking system right now because no one seems to be on the same page across the national media. But I believe the consensus is he's the number 9 prospect, right-handed pitcher.
Yeah, which would make him the 3rd right-handed pitcher on this list, behind Jorge Vera and Peyton Pallette, who was a second-round pick in 2022. Christian Mania and Jonathan Cannon are right behind him, though. The White Sox actually have a lot of right-handed pitchers in their top 30.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what could happen with some of these fireballers down the line. I would love to see, this pitching staff come back to like the ways of the 05 team, where you get a bunch of just dogs that every single day that you got a chance to win, even if you give up 3 runs in the top of the first, because the 05 team did that a couple times. I'd have to look statistically, but there's no quitting the Sox team in 05. They had a couple of those games towards like the last 3 weeks of the year last year. You're like, wow, this team's got some fire. Maybe they're going to do it. And then the wheels kind of came off a little bit. But I'm excited to see what Pedro Grifol does this year with this team. I've always been kind of getting a little bit of hate from the national media, including Christopher Mad Dog Russo, who I put a tweet out that got a lot of attention on social media.
Sure did.
For his take on the White Sox in 2023. He was more optimistic than I think we are. But then again, that's before the Clevenger stuff came out. But who knows? Depending on the stuff with Clevenger, you might see him play this year. You might not. I don't know what's going to happen there, Vinny. But I do know that we should sign Michael Wacha.
I agree with that. I would love to see my sources be wrong on what they've told me about second base, but they seem pretty set on Lenin Sosa and Romy Gonzalez, which is a head scratcher, but I mean, it is the White Sox we're talking about after all.
And, I'm sure that's probably what they are trying to do. It sounds like the most Jerry thing you could do, but maybe they're just trying to be quiet and then they're going to move some of those guys. I don't know, but I don't even know what a trade would look like for Gleyber Torres at this point. I really don't know what you'd have to give up.
I'm assuming you're for sure giving up a high-end player, right? Like, I don't know how high-end, but are you giving up
Crochet?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Garrett Crochet, who the Yankees seem to like.
Yeah.
Is a Yoelqui Cespedes going the other way to be a 4th outfielder, who is surprisingly low on the White Sox farm rankings. He's below a guy like Sean Burke.
He's very raw right now. I think he needs some minor league time. He's got the power, but he doesn't have the stroke.
Yes, I agree. He looked pretty good in spring training last year. He'll be there this year. He's probably the most exciting prospect for me to watch this year, just because, like, obviously a Colson Montgomery or an Oscar Colas, those guys are more likely to, become stars in the league based on their pedigree. But a guy who's so raw and so talented like Yoelqui, I'm not sure that everybody should just be writing him off because he's fallen down the rankings a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's writing him off. I mean, I know for sure based off of Phil Selig from Cuba Dugout saying that he has high hopes for him too once he gets some minor league experience. I don't think I'm writing him off on being on this club this year on the major league capacity. For all the people that were saying last year, bring him up, give him major league at bats, I think that's crazy when you're not even having full success with minor league. Give him some time to adapt. Colas, I feel better about. I'd love to see him get that day one shot. I also don't want to write off our guy Gavin Sheets either, but because he was the most consistent bat in the playoffs 2 years ago, and he had a lot of real good streaks towards the end of last season. But that's another guy that could be a trade chip too to the Yankees. He's like a Yankees kind of guy. I could see, Sheets fitting in well over there.
Yeah. Listen, Sheets is a very interesting player. Left-handed power bat. Doesn't play the outfield particularly well. Could play first base, but that's a loaded position for the White Sox. Always has been. I like you said though, I'm rooting for our guy.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's I'm ready to watch spring training, Vinny, because now that I'm in Michigan, the White Sox games aren't blacked out on MLB tickets, so I'll be buying an MLB ticket. The only thing that is blacked out is Tigers games around here. So, obviously, when they play the Tigers, I'll just watch the local broadcast. But
yeah, that's kind of stinky. I deal with that with the Devils when they play the Hawks. I go to the game at the United Center, but when they play the Hawks in New Jersey, I have no choice but to watch the Blackhawks broadcast to see the Devils that day. It's always interesting. It's like the one game a year I watch from the road perspective, so I don't really hate it, but
I didn't get to ask you, how did you enjoy New York?
New York was awesome. It's not as cool as Chicago. It's way dirtier. There's trash all over the place. The pizza is very, very good, very different. So I will always just say I like both. Harry Potter, awesome. Your great recommendation by you.
I knew you'd like it.
Next time I go, I'm going to go with $200 set aside just for that. The point of it will be to be spent there. I didn't know how awesome it was going to be. It was as cool as I expected.
It's a big week for Harry Potter news, Vinny, next week.
Oh, I know. I'm excited.
Hogwarts Legacy, for those of you guys that don't know, the new video game coming out.
Yes. Very excited to see how that all goes down. I probably am going to get it right away. I really want to play it. So we're going to see. I don't think it's canon, but they're saying it should be.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. The weird thing, too, that I got to point out for our listeners is it comes out February 10th, but that's for next-gen systems. The regular systems, like for Series 1 or for Xbox One and for PS4, that got pushed out to April, I think. And then Nintendo Switch people, that's like in July. So I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get it for Switch. Every game that's like a big game like that, I feel like is different on Switch.
Oh, yeah, it's brutal.
I kind of hate that about it, though. Like, why can't I just get the same game?
It's because it's got no processing power.
Yeah, it's definitely weak compared to what's going on with PlayStation and Xbox. But Frankie Mueller will have all the answers to that for you, and you could go read his stuff on App Trigger. I think it's the best video game site on the internet. Joe, this show did not go according to plan.
It did not. We just went with it, man.
I mean, we could talk about anything for hours. We said that already once. It's just one of those things that happens sometimes. I mean, I'm sure we'll have an explanation why, I hope.
Yeah, and, totally understand with, athletes, it's tough. So I'm sure we'll have a show again in the near future where we do get to interview Sean, and we're looking forward to seeing him in spring training and all that fun stuff. So just throwing it out there that, Sean, if you catch this later on, we'd love to have you on in the near future again before spring training.
Absolutely. It's going to be tough because I know they leave soon. We had to get Jake right in time, Jake Berger. But it'll be interesting to see how the season goes for the White Sox. Joe, I can't thank you enough for coming on, talking White Sox, talking Super Bowl, talking everything else that comes along with being an awesome sports fan on this network. Promote yourself, what you got going on with South Burbs and all that. I know you're the head catalyst of that show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate you having me on. Always love talking baseball and football and anything sports related with you. As Vinny said, we have South Burbs Hitmen coming up. It's the White Sox show here on the Barroom Network. We go live every Monday night. I guess we haven't settled on exactly what time we're going to do this year, but I believe last year we did the was it the 8 o'clock Central time slot? I believe is what we did last year. Or was it 7:30?
It was 8.
Okay, 8 Central. I believe we're going to stick with that because that's our time slot. 8 Central, 9 Eastern, every single Monday night, with various White Sox guests over the course of the year, whether they're players or in-stadium hosts like Alyssa Bergamini from the Tribune, Lamont Pope. You know, the guests just keep on going. We have people all year long, and we cover the team all year long from the fans' perspective, where our butts are in the seats as much as possible. And we just love this team. So we have great coverage, smart coverage, and an intelligent conversation. And we just have a lot of fun. And we always make it lighthearted towards the end. We'll talk about our favorite stadium foods or favorite thing to do in the ballpark or, you know, favorite giveaways and all kinds of stuff like that. We love interacting with you guys in the chat room. So give us a follow on Twitter at Southburb Hitman. Same thing. You can find Southburb Hitman on Instagram, on Facebook. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Mandel. Make sure you give Vinnie a follow, one of my co-hosts, of course, Vinnie Parise, and follow our other brother-in-arms and Steven Zimmerman at Raging Sox Fan. And I don't want to let anyone forget, but tune in on this upcoming Monday night, the 6th. We have Jake and Ashlyn Berger on the show before spring training. And Vinny, we are giving away 2 signed Jake Berger rookie cards to people that are watching the show, tuned in live, interacting in the chat room. So we want you guys here. We want you with a chance to win those cards. And most of all, you can get your questions into Jake, to Ashlyn. They're new parents. They're going to be, you know, traveling separate ways during spring training. It's just a wild time. We're just looking forward to having Jake on the show. He was one of the most fun parts of the team to watch last year when he was healthy. And we're, of course, rooting for him because he's a big friend of the show. He's also a big gamer too, Vinny. So we can see where he's doing in that respect. I know he said he did the Minecraft and some FIFA. We'll see where he's at with that. Parenting usually cuts into that a little bit, but we'll see if he's been doing any of that going on. So lots to talk about with Jake. I know I'm looking forward to it, and I know for sure Vinny is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to pick his brain. Like I said earlier in the show, we're going to talk baseball. We're going to talk video games. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to getting the Southburbs Hitman season started with this special episode early before we start for real when the season starts. That should be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. Joe, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. CrossTown CrossTalk, another great episode. Talking White Sox, obviously what's going on with Dylan Cease and the Athletic and Elvis Andrews. So much fun going over the Super Bowl. I hope everybody enjoys this weekend off of football. You got the NHL All-Star game coming up this weekend, starting with the skills competition tomorrow. And then, of course, the All-Star game itself on Saturday, when each division will play a 3-on-3 game, and then the 2 winners will play each other in the championship. That is going to be a lot of fun. Frank Mueller and I will recap that and everything you see in hockey between now and next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Very much looking forward to that conversation. And then we will also preview Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. We will make our picks, some prop bets, all sorts of things. Breaking bets will be in full swing for that episode. And then next week on CrossTown CrossTalk, we will start to really get into the nitty-gritty of spring training as we head into Super Bowl weekend. And, you know, once Super Bowl weekend ends, that's when baseball really gets going quickly. So I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. And as always, thank you for listening.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.
Another happy landing.